Welcome to this learning module on working with stakeholders as part of the AiMTT program. The learning objectives of this module are to understand the different types of stakeholders involved in event preparation and to understand how each stakeholder has a specific role and responsibility for event preparation. We will also look at how data-driven crowd management can create and solve some of the tensions between certain types of stakeholders. First, we have the event organizer. That's usually a business or a foundation, sometimes a government agency in charge of actually doing the event, hosting it to some degree. And they are responsible for the smooth and safe running of the event as its host. But the event organizer will sometimes also need legal permission from several other stakeholders to be allowed to host the event. And depending on the size and nature of the event, there can be quite many stakeholders. One of the obvious stakeholders that's often involved is the municipality. For example, the city of Amsterdam, that was the host for Sail 2025. And if the event is large enough, such as was the case with Sail, there will even be multiple municipalities involved. And they are the local government organization that will have to, in some cases, give a permit or waive the need for a permit in order for the event to take place. And there can be specific restrictions, such as a maximum number of visitors, or there can be agreements on the sound level that's acceptable for the event. How to proceed with parking of vehicles and temporary exceptions of that, and all other sorts of things that we want that the event organizer needs to take care of, but requires the municipality's agreement and consent in order to do so. And the municipality will try to balance the needs of the event and the gains of the event, also for being an attractive region or city, with the potential disturbance or risks involved with the event in question, and it will try to balance those interests. Other stakeholders may be the safety region, the police, the fire department, and the health services. They will all, for complex events, be involved in some degree in maintaining public safety. These organizations usually take an advisory role towards the event permit. And the safety region is sort of like the coordinating organization, which will bring these parties together and will discuss the safety aspects of the event. And based on that, they will come up with an advice. And sometimes there will be some mandatory aspects to that in order to receive the event permit. They will focus or help focus on capacity planning, contingency planning, all sorts of things that in advance can be done to make sure that the event will run smoothly and safely. For Sail, because multiple municipalities were involved, because they were such a large area was crossed, also with especially with the tall ships sailing from IJmuiden to Amsterdam. A lot of administrative borders for municipalities and other government agencies were crossed, making it a more complex event. The nautical aspect also meant that the Port of Amsterdam, Rijkswaterstaat, and other nautical authorities such as the Coast Guard were involved. And it was one of the first events where a drone presence or drone-related risk was taken into account, and there were also multiple organizations involved from the drone and airspace perspective, making sure that also drones could be detected and regulated where need be, because there were no fly zones stated for the event. There was also the royal family visiting, which also meant additional safety organizations were involved to make sure everything went well. Sail was, like the organization said, on land, on water, and in the air, with 2.5 million visitors in a period of 5 days, thousands of vessels, numerous drones, no official count there, but there were a lot, and 35 organizations working together for a safe and smooth venue. On this slide, we see a lot of these organizations involved, and they are. This is not even mentioning all the business organizations that were also involved. This is just from a perspective of government or government-related agencies, and there were already quite many. Sometimes these different stakeholders can have tension in their interests, and as an event organizer, there's always a commercial aspect regarding the number of visitors you're expecting or actually receiving for your event, because this is very closely tied to sponsorship, for example, or in some cases ticket sale. Sale was an open event; there were no tickets. But for other events, this can be very commercially sensitive information. And it's sometimes also difficult to talk about crowd management in terms of visitors or number of visitors, because depending on what type of visitor you have, a number is just a number. It can sometimes a handful of rowdy visitors can create more trouble than thousands of happy, compliant visitors. So a number in itself is not meaningful most of the time, but still it's always good also with its different stakeholders to discuss this and to see if we can come up with other indicators, for example, like levels of service for areas, and then using indicators such as flow, density, and mood of visitors to gain a better understanding of when it is crowded and when it is manageable and when it is not, rather than just focusing on an absolute number of visitors, because this will often be sensitive, and it will also not always give the right information that we would need to make a good decision. So it's also something where the more we're disclosing, also as an event organizer, on an event, and the more we're involving the safety organizations and health organizations and other forms of government agencies, that this can also create a situation where we're overly focusing on a potential risk, perhaps even to the part that we're mitigating it so much that it would be excessive, that it would be an overestimation of the actual operational risk. And that can make things for an event organizer more complex, more costly, or otherwise be something that they could consider as a hindrance rather than a help. So this tension between safety regulations and the commercial viability of the event, this will always be present. It's something to take into account when working together with these different groups. But one of the advantages of data sharing can also be to have shared schematics, have shared planning, and do the risk assessment together, multidisciplinary, in a way that is both commercially successful but also very safe, because working from the same blueprint, working with the same information, everybody is able to add their own bit of value and insight without detracting from the main goal, and without creating too much additional work for everybody involved. It can also even expedite the advisory process for the event permit, which can be one of the most stressful aspects of creating such an event. Can we get the permit? Can we get it in time? So sharing data and sharing those plans can even fast track that, making it worthwhile. And during the event itself, the actual shared data can help in monitoring and making sure that all other organizations involved also see that the event organizer is in control of the event, and that there's no need for other stakeholders to interfere or take command of the situation, which is better for the crowd manager, because that will also for the visitors create a much better experience, rather than have interventions from other organizations if they're not necessary. And if there is a serious incident, it is easier to pass the baton, to work together to smoothly solve it, and working from that same information position, then it becomes much easier to coordinate cooperation between the stakeholders. And last but not least, shared data also helps create a shared understanding, allowing people to more easily be in the same, feel like they're in the same business together, working together to create a smooth event. It will bolster the sense of we are one team. This was for the way this there was a planning for the preparations where there was also with multiple stakeholders involved. There were workshops in advance to determine which would be potential risks and how they could be mitigated, and that was taken into account for the preparation of the event. And working together on risks is always about always being mindful of, okay, it could be a risk. How could we manage that, and who is in charge of that? Who is responsible for managing the risk? And it will be something that they that there's an advisory role for the organizations, but still the event organizer is primarily in charge. They have to do these things. So this is always a delicate balance, but if done well, it can work very well. And identifying risks in advance always gives you more time to prepare and to make those preparations part also of your strategic crowd management and potentially measurement plan. For example, if we are expecting some areas to be very crowded and we can identify those areas up front, then perhaps we can put down the right type of sensoring to make sure that we can actually monitor the situation correctly while the actual event is taking place. And because we identify it up front, there's enough time to actually place the sensors and get permission for that. Also, again, from the municipality, allowing that those things to happen, or to have existing sensors share their data. Working together up front will allow you to see those opportunities and actually take advantage of them. During sale, we were working with a specific method of identifying risks. This was the bow tie method, in which we were identifying risks together with the different types of organizations based on the bow tie mechanism, where in a bow tie analysis, we are focusing on there could be a potential hazardous event. And if it happens, that's going to have some consequences, which are things we want to avoid. And on the other side, we have prevention, which will allow us to mitigate some of the threats already with control measures. And we would prefer to use control measures rather than recovery measures, because everything we can prevent will also be for visitors a much smoother and safer experience. So the bow tie analysis allows us to be proactive in trying to prevent actual hazardous events from taking place, and if need be, still have those recovery measures, but try to be one step ahead. And this way of looking at the risks was then translated further into information, data insights, specific warnings or alerts that were created in order to be that bit of preventive control measure to make sure that if there would be a risk, for example, overcrowding, that we would be able to spot it soon enough to dissolve or dissipate the crowd, or to allow no more new people to enter an area, allowing the problem to be solved before it actually became a problem. All this was done to create that common operational picture, the way we want to monitor an event with the different stakeholders, with clear leadership from the event organizer, but still where other safety and health organizations would be able to participate and step in if need be. To summarize and to have some of the main conclusions from the different stakeholders, the event organizer is primarily in charge, preparing and hosting the event, and informing the municipality of the event, asking for an event permit to the municipality. The municipality assesses the need for the event permit and whether there are potential safety risks. If so, they will involve other stakeholders such as the safety region, police, fire department, health services, and others to make sure that there's an advice on how to proceed and how to make the event run safe and smoothly. And working together with these different parties, also involving shared data and shared plans, can create a more productive cooperation, where you take care to avoid sensitive information based on commercial interest, but rather focus on how can we identify actual relevant risks, how can we mitigate those, and preferably upfront, and to make sure that we have a smooth event for all involved. So there you have it. That's the end of this learning module. Thank you all for watching. See you during another one.